All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes to get everyone a chance to get into the webinar. Thank you. All right. So I think we have everyone. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Gaining Confidence in the Cloud. My name is Andaika Courtois, and I am the marketing manager here at NCC Group for our software Escrow division, and I'll be your moderator. I am really excited to introduce today's speaker, Ali Howard. Ali is a global partner relationship manager here at NCC Group with years of experience in software escrow, representing our clients' interest. So today he's going to share how to ensure you're protecting your organization's interest in the cloud and some best practice advice about cloud migration. But before I hand it over to Ali, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. First, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session and will be accessible through the same link you're using right now. Thank you to those who sent their questions ahead of time. Ali and our technical experts, Paul Robinson, as well as Simon Casey, will be answering your questions at the end of the session. So if we do not have the opportunity to get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterward. Lastly, after the webinar, we will be sending our latest ebook, if you haven't downloaded it already, the Cloud Migration Guide, for you to download at your convenience. So, without any further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Ali Howard, our Global Partner Relationship Manager. Ali, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Andaika. Hi, my name is Ollie Howard, and I lead some of NCC Group's strategic engagements with partners through our software escrow division. I've worked in a variety of roles across the group over the last 9 years or so, and during my time with the company, I've witnessed firsthand a steady but consistent shift in the way in which our customers are consuming technology. Now, this has led to a direct shift in focus for us, as our business is built around helping our customers to overcome the challenges which are part and parcel of technological progression. We can consider it to be our responsibility to our customers to be their trusted partner, and our expertise centres on a few key areas, namely business continuity and resilience, cybersecurity, and information assurance. Now, being in control of these matters is fundamental for any business, particularly one who is undergoing or plans to undergo a process of technological transformation. As we move into a cloud-first world, which enables so much in terms of speed, scale, flexibility, it's important to pay close attention to and remediate the potential risks so that the benefits of cloud computing can be truly embraced. So the webinar today will cover a few key areas, providing you, hopefully, with an overview of NCC Group, our view on the modern business landscape and the challenges that businesses face. And there'll also be some guidance on how we can help you to gain confidence in the cloud. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the webinar, as Andaika had said. So please do take a note of anything you would like to ask. I'll be supported by my technical colleagues, Simon Casey and Paul Robinson. Now, just to provide some background on NCC Group, at a high level, we're split into two distinct business areas which work collaboratively to provide unique value to our global customers. Our software escrow division has led the market in business continuity and resilience for over 30 years, and it's this area where we'll be particularly focusing our attentions today. Alongside escrow is our assurance division, which focuses largely on cybersecurity and information assurance. Now, if we apply some direct focus on our escrow division, I'd like to talk you through a few key facts and figures. Our breadth across industries and sectors is widespread, given that what we do is, in effect, universally applicable to any instance where critical software plays a role. It's fair to say that we have a stronger presence in regulated industries such as banking and finance, and we've produced a very useful research paper recently which maps our services against some of the major global regulations. I'd be happy to share that with anybody following the webinar if you'd be interested to see it. We also see a lot of uptake of our services with organisations who provide services which are involved in the running of major national infrastructure. Now, in our increasingly connected world, the dependence on critical software will only increase, and due to the nature of what we do, this has led to us to form partnerships with over 7,000 independent software providers globally. In essence, that means we're the trusted brand for these technology providers, acting as their secure repository for their most critical asset, which is their intellectual property in the form of source code. Our presence is widespread with 35 office locations around most major business hubs. What this gives our customers is 24/7, 365 availability should they require it. Now, through this network of ISVs, we reach in the region of about 18,000 end customers who consume escrow services to assure the long-term availability of their critical software assets. We'll come to the relevance of our partnerships with Microsoft and AWS later in the webinar, but this is key to the future of how we intend to work with our customers when it comes to protecting cloud-hosted technology. Now, let's talk about the modern business landscape and how this is changing when it comes to provision of software and its consumption. Modern businesses are built on technology. It's true to say that many new challenger banks, for example, are not banks at all, but technology companies who happen to provide financial services. Some of the fastest growing unicorn businesses are built on a single application, built for one purpose, which is deployed on a global scale. The gig economy, a phenomenon of the last decade or so, has revolutionized many aspects of our everyday lives, such as how we travel, how we eat, and how we communicate. Now, while these are extreme examples, it's reasonable to say that most businesses have transformed significantly from a technology perspective over the last decade. And this has been driven by the other modern day phenomenon, which is cloud computing. So through our unique lens, working as an independent provider of escrow services between providers and consumers of critical software, we've seen this shift firsthand. So to give a brief history lesson, before the cloud evolution, the traditional approach for businesses had been to host and manage software within the physical premises of their company. Perhaps this could be viewed by some as a simpler time, but while cloud computing does come with a few complexities, the advantages are boundless, and we shall come on to that a little bit later. But first, a few statistics to articulate the point a little more clearly. Through both our own research and from borrowing from a few reputable sources, the evidence for cloud adoption is clear to see. It's believed that by next year, 83% of enterprise workloads will reside in the cloud. 94% of enterprise-sized companies already use cloud services in some capacity, and I'm sure that the remaining 6% are making moves in the same direction. From a financial perspective, the global cloud computing market will grow to over $383 billion by 2020. So it's little wonder that the most profitable divisions of both Microsoft and Amazon are their cloud hosting businesses, Azure and AWS respectively. Sticking with the financial notion, it's estimated that half of enterprise organizations spend more than $1.2 million on cloud services annually. This investment, paired with the fact that many organizations are leaning on more than one cloud platform, begins to lead us towards some of the potential risks, which I'll cover in a little bit more detail as we move through the presentation. But what do all these numbers really tell us? Well, the evidence would suggest that we're moving quickly towards a cloud-first era. In fact, I'd say that we're already there in terms of the mindset of most businesses. It's more the logistics and complexities of making the move, which is putting the brakes on in some areas. But the concept of being born in the cloud is not new, and as an Escrow partner, we're engaged with many hundreds of ISVs who fit this profile and criteria. They've never deployed their software on-premise. They may have signed an agreement with a hosting partner to exclusively deploy their software on that particular platform. Likewise, many end users of critical software, so banks and transport companies and others, are taking similar steps to migrate their infrastructure to the cloud and maybe aligning with a preferred hosting partner in order to reduce the distribution of their cloud estates. So to touch on some of the key benefits of the cloud and for all parties involved in the transaction of software, well, firstly, there's the increased flexibility and scalability that the cloud brings. Cloud-hosted technology allows organizations to deliver digitally enabled services that are accessible anywhere, anytime. This means employees can access up-to-date customer data, resulting in operational efficiencies and a better experience for the customer. Likewise, customers are able to access self-serve cloud-based services at a time and location that's convenient for them, resulting in high levels of customer satisfaction. Cloud-hosted software also facilitates more efficient collaboration between employees across boundaries, borders, and time zones, which can accelerate business results and drive growth. From the ISV's perspective, the cloud can facilitate rapid growth as a developer can quickly build an application and launch these to the marketplace without the lengthy installation and configuration processes, which in itself is game-changing in terms of speed to market. This leads us nicely on to innovation, and a recent survey by IBM found that 71% of companies indicated that they would see themselves as a cloud-enabled innovator. And there are some fantastic examples of where companies, in particular ISVs, are truly leveraging the power of cloud computing to innovate and also collaborate. Now, innovation should be at the core of any organization that wants to remain competitive, and cloud computing is an essential component of any innovative organizational strategy. Whilst on-premise legacy systems have for a long time served their purpose, these expensive, often infrastructure-heavy solutions can sometimes actually hinder innovation. Now, a lot is often made of the cost-saving benefits which come with cloud computing, and indeed, 61% of IT leaders would say that cost-cutting is the top reason for their organization to adopt cloud software. It is also important to highlight the positive impact that it can have on revenue growth, enabling businesses to gain more customers, improve customer service, often through the use of AI technology and machine learning, and generally create cost-cutting efficiencies which wouldn't have been achievable prior to the evolution of the cloud. Now, all of these factors combine to give all businesses a route to creating a competitive advantage, so it really is quite easy to see the attraction. So we've talked about the drivers for and the advantages of cloud, but how do you actually get from A to B, and what should you consider along the way as part of a robust cloud migration strategy and beyond? Well, if we draw for a moment on the expertise of NCC Group's assurance practice, who specialise in supporting many of you as our valued customers who are already on this journey, we can use their trusted methodologies, which outline the need to assess, deploy, and manage. So firstly, assess. What are your business requirements for the cloud? Secondly, deploy. Implement the relevant tooling and provisions identified as part of the initial assessment. And then 3, manage. Ensure that your risk profile is effectively managed at all times and on an ongoing basis. And it's within the manage phase where NCC Group's Escrow services come into play and form a vital part of the cloud migration strategy. If we break down what this means, we can see that the key risks for a business needs to manage. Security remains the highest priority for businesses and continues to make some businesses hesitant to fully embrace the cloud. Many organizations, particularly those operating in heavily regulated industries like banking and finance, must adhere to various compliance standards around ensuring the availability and continuity of critical software. Business downtime is another risk which is considered to be amplified when using cloud technologies, as the application isn't physically on-premise, so the impact of downtime could be much more immediate and much more far-reaching. And finally, there's the concern of the reduced availability of your software estate, which can be complicated by having your infrastructure held across multiple cloud environments, as well as some of it still potentially being on-premise. So how can you gain confidence in the cloud and embrace its advantages with a reduced risk profile? Well, there are many things to consider as part of your overall strategy, and a robust cloud escrow policy should form an integral part of this. The understanding of cloud escrow is growing all the time, and the uptake of cloud-specific escrow services is accelerating all the time. As businesses replace their on-premise software estate with cloud-hosted alternatives, it's critical that your escrow arrangements keep pace. So to provide some more background, we'd like to play this short video for you.
Businesses like yours the world over have long been reliant on software to operate, remain competitive, and grow. That reliance fuels a new challenge, ensuring all the lights stayed on. Some 30 years ago, software escrow provided that peace of mind, protecting on-premise business critical applications and everyone involved in keeping them running. But the world is changing. Businesses are realizing breathtaking agility, efficiency, accessibility, cost savings, and unparalleled flexibility by moving to cloud-hosted software. But what happens now when things go wrong in the cloud? When your software is no longer maintained or updated? When your supplier gets bought or goes out of business? Leaving your business continuity, regulatory compliance, and access to data in jeopardy. If you got NCC Group's Escrow as a Service on your time, the answer is nothing. Our flexible solution offers includes EAS access. It gives you fast access to the live environment of the cloud-hosted software application so you can take control if the worst should occur. And with EAS Replicate, you'll have a bulletproof version of the cloud-hosted software application independently hosted in NCC Group's secure cloud environment, ready to get you back up and running with minimal downtime. Escrow as a Service is a simple, streamlined approach to cloud risk mitigation that covers you for every eventuality. Whether your transition to the cloud is complete or you're cautious about making your migration happen, there's a simple way to embrace cloud technology adoption and gain confidence in its capabilities. It's called Escrow as a Service, and it's changing everything. This is cloud resilience made simple. Escrow as a Service. From NCC Group, Cloud Resilience Made Simple, in partnership with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure.
So, to summarize, with Escrow as a Service, or EAS for short, NCC Group provides the solution to simple cloud resilience that our customers require. We give ISVs and their customers the freedom to innovate with new and exciting technology. We offer a flexible solution which enables the customer to either access or replicate their unique cloud environment. We provide a range of complementary verification services to strengthen the contractual escrow solution, and we developed our products in collaboration with the world's leading cloud service providers, AWS and Microsoft Azure. So let's just step back to those risks we talked about a little earlier and assess how EAS can help to mitigate these risks and enable the benefits of cloud to be enjoyed. And to finish, we have a case study from a current NCC Group customer who's been able to do exactly that. Heathrow Express turned to NCC Group to put in place the necessary precautions to mitigate the risks associated with using an application hosted in the cloud by a third-party software supplier. So by implementing Escrow as a service replicate agreement with verification, Heathrow Express have the legal access to a separately hosted and mirrored instance of their bespoke software and unique data, and the assurance that the deposited material contains everything they need to generate a copy of the environment in order to run the application. The result is that should there be a scenario where an escrow release is triggered, NCC Group will grant Heathrow Express access to all of the resources stored within the AWS hosted environment, which allows the customer to continually evolve through the AWS platform. So that concludes the webinar. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to what we've discussed today. And we'd welcome any questions that you may have.
We did have some questions come in, Ali, and I think the first one is actually for Simon. So Simon, is the EAS solution, Escrow as a Service solution, a cloud backup solution?
Okay, thank you, Andika. So essentially, Escrow as a Service is a cloud service continuity solution. In the case of our access verification, NCC Group are verifying and retaining the root level credentials to provide continued cloud environment access in the event of supply failure. With our replicate verification, NCC Group are capturing and retaining a complete mirrored snapshot of the pre-existing cloud-hosted environment, whereby the created subscription is transferred into licensee ownership should a release event occur. It's also worth noting that in order to keep the replicated cloud environment up to date, interim changes such as IAM policies, CloudFormation scripts, and database dumps can be fed directly into an S3 bucket or an Azure blob, which is hosted by NCC Group, and that can be done whenever it's required, depending on the required frequency, really. And any other questions?
Yes, actually, we do have another one. Paul, I think you might want to take this one. How long does it typically take to deliver the Escrow as a Service verification?
So it really depends on the level of service that is applicable and that the client chooses to adopt. If, for example, we are implementing the access solution, we can perform a validation of the root level credentials or global admin credentials themselves, which is quite simply a process of a remote connection into the ISV to witness the utilization of those credentials and the production of an executive summary report to prove that those credentials are complete and correct and held in escrow. So that process can be usually done within an hour at maximum. If we are providing the Access Plus, then source code compilation and deployment is taken into consideration here, basically providing assurances that any source code we're holding within our custody is complete and correct, and we've documented all of the compilation and deployment processes. We allow up to 3 days for completion of a source code verification exercise. It's usually well within that, depending on the complexity of the build, but we allow up to 3 days. If we were performing and implementing a replicate verification, then we allow up to 5 days, whereby we document the creation of the cloud environment itself, all of the infrastructure requirements, etc. If we are including source code via the Replicate Plus exercise, then that timescale can be up to 8 days. Again, depending on the complexity of the build, to make sure that we're capturing not only the deployment of the source code, but also the compilation.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Ali, I hope you're ready for this one, because this one I think belongs to you. What does the release process look like for the Escrow as a Service agreement?
Okay, well, I guess any current NCC Group customers who have what you might refer to as our traditional escrow services in place already, you'll be, I guess, pleased to know that the release process that we'd undertake with an Escrow as a Service agreement would be very much in line with that. But just to, I suppose, advise anybody on the call who perhaps isn't already familiar with NCC Group's release processes. So the typical flow of events would be that we would be contacted in the first instance by the beneficiary of the escrow agreement, so the licensee in most cases, or potentially the distributor. But let's say the licensee, so the organisation that's dependent on the software we're holding in escrow, they would get in touch with us to raise the reasons that they believe a release should be authorised. We wouldn't just release the material at that point. We would then notify the software owner, and we would ask for them to respond to the release request. Now, there's a period of time then where NCC Group will mediate the discussion, and what we do often find is during this period we can usually come to an agreement between all parties that would avoid us having to release the material. The last thing ultimately that we want to have to do is release the material, but obviously there are instances where we do have to do that. So if we can find a pragmatic way in which to continue the escrow service, then we will always look to do that. If we can't do that and there is genuine grounds for release, then following the necessary due diligence process, we would release the material that we're holding in escrow to the end customer. If they have selected to verify the latest version, then of course they'll also be in receipt of the documentation which would support the code and the associated files that we'd be releasing, and that would then give them the platform from which to assure their business continuity.
Thank you, Ollie. So I think that's all the time that we have right now. And if you have any more questions for us, please do not hesitate to reach out to us and we'll definitely follow up. Thank you for attending the webinar, and be sure to download our latest ebook, Cloud Migration Guide. Thank you so much.